Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of the racing game. So we're going to show you now that our UI will update when we start driving. So let's get into it. These two, we're not worried about these two for now. Alright, so in the last video you saw that we had made this box. I'm going to break this down for you so you can understand how this works. First we added a text, and then because the overlay on this, then we had to first, this will show you, as you see we can't really draw it out, so we had to place it in the center like so, and then the padding 32 to move it there. But anyway, after we did that, then we realized, okay, well, we need a box because we're doing two, one with the words and one with numbers. So once we had our first one, then once we had our first one, then we had a right click and we decided to wrap this in a vertical box. So to show you how that works, right click here, and then you wrap it with, and there's a menu that comes up with things like checkbox, horizontal box, vertical box, all that stuff, right? So we chose vertical box for this here. And then we added another text into that box. We just added it on the hierarchy under vertical box. And then we renamed them. On the first one, when you come under the font, it starts out being a bold, as you can see there. And then you switch it over to the light to give it that gray background. And then this number here, we resized it, made it 00, 0. And then the next thing is we had to bind the number so that way we could change that. So this is what we did. Went over to our event graph here. Well, once you start going for a bind right here, then it'll bring you over to the event graph automatically. But this is what it will start you with, the get text and the return node. But we had this started in the last video, but this is what it's come down to now. So we add the game mode and we cast it to that, but then we changed some of the nodes that were over here earlier because it wasn't really working. So as our racing game mode, which is over here with all these things, crossing the checkpoints and finish, lose out of time, all that stuff, right? That's the game mode. So from that, we look up the time remaining timer, which is coded in there. Basically, your time counting down. And then you get your time remaining time by handle. And how this works is you, off the return value, look up less than. And if it's less than 0, because when you do your timer before, your timer goes to -1, and you don't want it to be -1, so that's what this node is for. Less than 0, then you're going to do a select float. You're going to pick A, which is 0, right? And your timer handle, you're going to plug that into B. And then here on this one, you're to text float. If you look at this, this is what it is. It's like a pin that disconnects here. This is just brought out. Now, I'm going to show you this as well, as I said I would. We'll come back to this once we're done explaining everything. These two numbers here, these fractional digits, will be like hundredths of the second. So we did a few 2 and 2 for each of those. We can set those to 0, but it will change the appearance of the number on the screen. So we're going to leave that like that. But we will show you how that works. Now, we're done in the UI, but we come over here to the racing game mode, and we also had to make some changes in the add time to timer. Again, the start timer duration was plugged in, but we changed that as well. So as the input here, the time to add, we're going to add that to our timer. Instead of the start timer duration, we're going to plug the timer itself into this. And we're going to add this. And then, so basically, this time to add, say if I cross a checkpoint, that's why it's called add time to timer. If we're adding time, we add it to our timer. And the timer by event, you have the lose or out of time because it's a timed race. And then here's the time remaining if it's still active. Okay, so that is all working now. So without further ado, let's show you what we have for the timer countdown, and then we'll show you what it looks like when we change those fractions of seconds as I mentioned. So if you look up top, when it does start countdown, it does all that, and the time remaining is counting down, and it will stop at 0. And obviously it says you lose in the top left when that happens. But I also want to point out to you as well, instead of start countdown, wait a couple seconds and then it starts. But as you can see, this is hundreds of seconds, or hundredths, excuse me, of seconds. So if we change this, zeros, I'm going to change it back in just a minute. As you can see up top, it counts down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now it still does the same thing. You still lose, but it is just without all the extras. So I like the extras, and so we're going to put those back. And as I mentioned, it looks like a big node, but all this is plugging this return value into the return value, and it gives you this node in between. And then you can adjust these settings as necessary. So, with that, the timer now works, and then once we're started here, you can see 7 seconds each time, for each checkpoint. And then when I win, then the timer stops. Alright, so we will see y'all in the next edition. Make sure y'all stay tuned for more of these racing videos as we continue to build our track and add more to our game. See you guys on the next one.